There's a lot going on in this movie.
It was like I was watching it for the first time.
I like this movie.
It has a special place in my heart.
Very close to my heart.
This was a good one.
I want to like this movie.
What? Seriously?
I loved it.
Very flat, kind of boring.
This movie blows me away. This movie turns me on.
Terrible. It is terrible. All these keys everywhere. Influences, baby.
Huge fan.
That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Hello out there in YouTube and podcast land. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, where we talk about horror movies and science fiction films and those key elements that often lift above, but sometimes just separate them from the average genre fare. David and I have been doing this podcast and YouTube show for going on 7 seasons now. So those of you that are returning know us well and know what we do. But for those of you that are just now joining us, we want to welcome you. David and I have known each other for a very long time. This is a podcast between friends of over 40 years, and we have been talking about movies for that long, probably. So when we go into things, we do know a little bit about what we were talking about. We either know from memory, or we know from IMDb, or we just know from repetitive viewings of particular directors. And you will hear us talk about directors a lot as well. So welcome aboard. And I guess welcome to you, David, my friend and co-host. Happy Halloween. It's October.
It's almost. I mean, it's pumpkin carving time, as
right.
They say. So, yeah, we're glad to be here and glad to have people listening and watching us and that sort of thing. Normally, we begin by talking about what we've been doing in our genre week. For those of you who are new to us, I tend to be the sci-fi guy. Tim seems to be the horror guy, or tends to be the horror guy. We both appreciate each other's genres. And I have been referred by my co-host to a particular property and said, hey, you need to watch this. You need to watch this. You need to watch this. Oh, I watched this and it was great, blah, blah, blah. Does that a lot. I have a huge list, but I'm trying to catch up.
I do that a lot.
I'm trying to catch up, but I am proud to say that I checked one off my list that I hope that you will be proud of. And I finally watched Pearl, which is the prequel, I guess, to X.
Awesome.
And I was blown away by this movie. I thought this movie was amazingly good. I was going, oh my God, this guy is really good. And she's really good.
And I told you, I think I may like it better than X.
I do. I like it better than X, and X has dirty stuff in it or whatever. Yeah. But there's.
I love the credits sequence. The fonts are like from the 40s or
the 40s. Yes, it's very Gone with. I mean, it's very Wizard of Oz all the way through it.
Even though it's set in the World War I, they're using like earlier, like 1940s techniques. Yeah.
And by the way, if you have not seen this, please stop right now and go watch it and then come back, because we do spoil even when we're talking about things we've done in Genre Week. And I just was blown away with how good the movie was, how tense I got, how scared I got in places, how good she was, even down to the closing credits, which are that her laughing maniacally, which is so psycho. I was loving.
But it's like her holding that weird smile for the entire credit sequence.
All the credits. Yeah. Like 3 minutes of that. And that deserves an Oscar just for
She looks stressed out, that's for sure.
And it really got me excited for what he could possibly do with Maxine, which is the end of the trilogy, I guess, or whatever.
Well, and we did a Coming to Get You recently because Maxine is coming out, and I talked about it. I mentioned that I think this could be revered as like one of the best horror trilogies. If Maxine is as good as the other 2 films, this could be like my top horror trilogy.
Yeah.
Easy.
And I'm very curious to see. I have a slight prediction, which I'll mention to you, but I'm
Okay.
very curious to see because, and forgive me if for some reason I'm blanking on his name, the director,
Ty
creator, is
West.
Ty West. Yeah, he's very, very good with setting his vision in a particular time period and then supporting that with everything from the music to whatever. X is a very late 1960s, early 1970s drive-in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all of that feel to it. There's some handheld stuff in it, not just the video that they're shooting, but in the way he shoots stuff and does stuff and everything.
It's
It's
actually set in the late 70s, though. But
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
but it
does look
has
like
that
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
stylistic feel. Same
Hmm.
way in this one, it's set in World War One, but all the aesthetic is from like 1939. I mean, even down to her wearing the top hat on the bike going through the cornfield, and we are just seeing, we could hear dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun dun, dun. But the music is this sweeping, bombastic all the way through, even the scary stuff.
That's why we love him so much, because he knows to pay homage to things like that. And as
Without it being hammered.
cinemaphiles,
It's just
right.
there and you get it and
Yeah.
go, oh, and also when you just think, oh, I get the homage there, he twists it in such a sick, depraved, weird way that you go, oh my God, what are you doing to this childhood vision I have of the scarecrow? Holy shit. He's just really good. And 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 obviously he's good with her. She is phenomenally. I'll be curious to see her in another film that's not directed by Taiwan.
I've been thinking about watching Infinity Pool. She's done several horror movies that I haven't seen, and that's
Yeah.
one of them. Yeah.
And again, she's not a classic beauty. You don't look at Mia Goth and go, oh, she's going to be a star. Da, da, da.
God,
Not
she's
really.
good, though.
But gosh, she's great.
Yeah.
And so I think the aesthetic of Maxine might be that 80s trope again, similar to
Oh,
what
yeah.
he did with his first one,
Oh, with House of the Devil.
House
Yeah.
of the Devil. So I think it's going to be very 80s, very big hair, very that era. But
I
I'm
think he's
curious
just
to
going
see.
to, I think he's going to mimic slasher films. And
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he's that's what he's gonna do. But I'll be curious to see what he then layers on it and what he's going to homage and
well,
everything. It's
the
just-
preview already looks a little like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Tarantino
Yes,
film.
the
Yeah.
Tarantino. So yeah, I was blown away. I thought it was a great film. I highly recommend it
Awesome.
to
I've got it on our
everybody.
list. We'll have to do it next time.
Oh yeah, I think we'll have fun taking that one
We'll
apart.
do it.
Just because
I'll put it
there's
on next season. Yeah.
so much stuff.
Maybe
to
we'll
it.
do a double feature with Maxine. Yeah.
And it's interesting too, coming from a performer standpoint, which both of us do, so to speak, her wanting to be an actress, wanting to perform, wants to be a dancer. And that audition
I'm
is
going to be a star.
that audition is as terrifying as the rest of the damn movie.
Yeah. Oh my God. But I just the whole time she is doing the dance number, and they bring in the imaginary supporting dancers and all the backdrop changes and everything. And the whole time you're watching her, you're going, oh my God. It's like you feel embarrassed, mortified, but you also feel so sorry for. I mean, it makes you feel so many different emotions. And then he takes it all out and it's just her. And you realize, oh my God, she's that woman from Grey Garden. She's just dancing around like a lunatic. Yeah.
And you hear
I
that
love it.
one voice way, way off saying, thank you, but it's a no.
It's a no.
And you go, oh,
Yeah.
and you go, don't say that. Don't say that to her.
And then
Don't
she
say
has
that to
her
her.
breakdown and starts crying and screaming. You've got to cast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
The worst possible reaction to an audition that you ever want.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he follows that with that scene in the kitchen, which if that is not Oscar worthy, I don't know what is.
And so tense. I have never been so tense in my life. And you're talking about the monologue that goes on for like 5 minutes.
It's like 7, I think.
Yeah.
7.
And the whole time her sister-in-law is sitting there thinking, how am I going to get out of here without getting killed?
But the thing is, once she starts the monologue,
Ooh,
he doesn't cut to the sister
mm-mm.
intentionally and
Right.
stays on one single shot of her doing that. And by the end of it, you're going, oh my God, what's her reaction going to be? What's her reaction? And you feel exactly like her. When it cuts to her, you don't know how to react. And it's that long pause. And she finally goes, well, I think I should be going now. You're never going
Ah,
to
it
get
is
out of here.
terrifying.
It is
Yes.
so scary. It is.
Yeah. I should have known. I mean, it's so funny that you brought it up, and I should have known that we would just go on and on about it. Sorry about your genre week, people. It's a little
Yeah.
long,
It's a little so long genre week
but
this week.
it's exactly why we need to do an episode on it because
We do.
it is brilliant.
It is brilliant. Sorry. I meant to go, oh, I watched Pearl. It was really good, just like you said. That's what I did my genre week. What did you do, Tim?
Oh, wow. Okay. Since we're going there, I went into the territory of a little film that I've been seeing get raves on the critical circuit. I think I mentioned it to you. You may have heard of it. It is called Stop Motion.
Mm-mm. Oh, yes. I saw the trailer for that. No, no, no. Why would you go there?
It is really creepy. It is playing on Shudder right now. It's a British movie that reminds me of those surrealistic horror movies like Twin Peaks and even Mandy, that movie that Nicolas Cage did. I've
Yeah.
mentioned that one before. Except this one features a generous amount of stop motion, which you don't see very often now. That's stop motion animation, folks, for you people that don't know out there.
Yeah, if it wasn't
And
for Guillermo and Nightmare on Elm Street, I mean, Nightmare Before Christmas. What's his name?
Tim Burton.
Tim
Yes.
Burton.
Yes.
You wouldn't see it anywhere.
It looks a little less perfect than Pixar.
Well, Pixar isn't stop animation, though.
No,
Pixar's
it's
animation.
not. It's just another form of animation, right?
Yeah.
But and what's cool about this is that most of the really scary stuff is the animation.
Oh.
Yeah.
What have you done to Ray Harryhausen? Oh my God.
Well, his skeletons were pretty scary too.
Yeah, they were.
This is directed by Robert Morgan. I know absolutely nothing about him. The cast is good. It features someone I think you know. Her name is Aisling Franciosi. She's
Sounds
Irish
familiar.
Italian and was in Game of Thrones.
Sounds familiar, but I don't know which character she plays.
She's one of those faces that looks like, oh yeah, she was in Game of Thrones. But I've never seen that, so I don't know. And then it also stars Stella Gonnet and Tom York, who are both, like I said, British actors, so I don't really know them that well. The synopsis is Ella Blake, a stop motion animator struggling to control her demons after the loss of her overbearing mother, embarks upon the creation of a film that becomes a battleground for her sanity. Basically, it's a film that her mother started and she feels obligated to finish because she died during the making of it. And it's got really, even the hero of the stop animation film is creepy looking. So you know the villain of the stop animation film is going to be creepy looking too.
Dear.
Yeah, it's really good. I've put it on our list just because of the fact that it's a stop motion animation film in places. It scores 91% on Rotten Tomatoes with 65 reviews. I would describe it as dark, disturbing, and very trippy, which is ironic because there is a minor plot point in the film that has to do with LSD. But most of all, it's a must for anyone that's fans of stop motion animation.
Very Lynchian, so
yeah.
to speak. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is what I did in my genre week. I went over to Shudder again. So
Wow.
I don't know
Well,
that you have a
speaking of
segue.
scary little things, we are segueing to our topic of the week. This week, we are doing a film from 1960, directed by Wolf Rilla, or Ria, I assume, written by Sterling Silliphant, Wolf Rilla, and Ronald Kinnock, I think, or
That's what it
Knoke.
looks like. Yeah.
Knock or Knoke. Stars George Sanders, Barbara Shelley, and Martin Stevens. It's a little film from 1960 called Village of the Damned. A brief synopsis, and I just took this one right from IMDb because it's pretty straightforward.
Before you go, did you mention it's based on the book by John Wyndham?
I did not, but it
So
is.
he's one of the writers as well then.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
In the small English village of Midwich, everybody and everything falls into a deep, mysterious sleep for several hours in the middle of the day. Some months later, every woman capable of childbearing is pregnant, and the children that are born out of these pregnancies seem to grow very fast, and they all have the same blonde hair and strange penetrating eyes that make people do things they don't want to do. So that's a good teaser without giving too much away. It is based on John Wyndham's novel, The Midwich Cuckoos. Do you know what the title refers to in Midwich Cuckoos and why they said in America when they were making it, or when they were making this, they said they had to change the title because people would not know the reference to
You wouldn't. I know it
cuckoos.
because I did research on it,
Yes.
but and also America tends to want to give sensationalist titles, and Village of the Damned is much more
Oh,
sensational
yes. Especially in
than,
1960. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So, and it is actually a British production, but it's like a joint production between MGM and the Brits because I
Hmm.
watched the sequel as well, which is the same. What you're alluding to, Midwich is the village, obviously,
Hmm.
and Cuckoo Bird is known for hiding their eggs or something, or like taking eggs and relocating them.
Yeah, they deposit their eggs in the nests of other birds that don't
Right.
know.
So that someone else raises them. That's right. You're right.
And what they also said was part of the process too is a lot of times the cuckoos in the nest will kill their nest mates
And eat
in
them.
order to get more food and more favor with the
Wow. And it's
attention.
funny that you were talking about this because I thought cuckoo birds were made up. Is there really a cuckoo?
Oh
What's
yeah,
it
there
look
is a
like?
cuckoo bird. Yeah, it's a cuckoo.
Okay.
You can Google cuckoo. Well, and I also think it was a smart decision because even in the 60s, late 50s, early 60s, the term cuckoo in the United States referred to mental illness in some way. So you would think, oh, so it's a bunch of mental patients rather than the bird. So
That is one of the reasons, one of the meanings of it. But I also think of it as a cuckoo clock. I think of cuckoo clocks, which are the clocks where the little bird pops out of it
yes,
too.
yes.
Yeah.
I assume you've seen this movie
I
before.
have seen this movie. I did not see it upon original release. I don't recall ever watching it as a kid on like Shock Theater, but
Nope.
I am fairly certain when videos came around in the 80s, you and I rented this, or I rented it with someone else.
Yeah, I'm
I
pretty
know
sure
I
that's when
watched
I saw it too, was in the 80s. I
it.
did
Okay.
not see, of course, original release, and
Mhm.
I did not see it when I was a kid.
No. And I've
Um,
seen it like subsequently, probably two more times on Turner Classic Movies.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I've seen it a few times.
And I have too. And you like it, I assume.
I do like this movie. Of course, I like anything now with George Sanders. He's becoming one of my favorite actors.
He's great.
He is awesome.
He was a very subtle actor and very capable, but also he exudes confidence
Hmm.
in everything. And I think he was a perfect cast for this character.
Although he is a little old, and it is a classic Hollywood casting of a really older man or an older man with a younger wife. It's very cliche.
But I think from my research, if you guys are out there and you're an authority on Village of the Damned, correct me if I'm wrong, but think in research in the novel, he's about the right age for the teacher in the novel. It's just that his wife is a little bit older. That's why when she becomes pregnant, it's an anomaly.
Okay.
So I think that was the Hollywoodism of we've got to have a starlet rather than, oh, we have to cast him with a younger woman. But he's so good at playing the levels in this, from the educated teacher who's trying to help to the concerned family member to the excited husband, all the way down to the terrified teacher. I thought he was really good in this. I think I had never heard of Wolf Rilla or Ria
Me either. I
before.
was like, who is this guy? He's some
Um,
German guy.
yeah, and looking him up, you think he's German, and he really was German, but his family's Jewish. So they actually left Germany during the occupation and everything else. But he's got a lot of credits. He's got like over 24 credits of short films, certain television series. I'm assuming it's all British because I didn't recognize anything else he had done. I mean, Scarlet Pimpernel was an episode of television. And
Well, there was a Scarlet Pimpernel film, but I'm assuming you're saying what he did was a television thing.
correct,
Okay.
correct. And his last credit is from 75. So I'm assuming that he stopped after that or passed away after that. But nothing reaching this level. And I was really curious, and I could not find anything really in research as to why. Was he blacklisted? Was he whatever?
We do so much research that I'm afraid I'm confusing it. But I want to say, did he maybe escape Germany because he was Jewish?
Yes, they left Germany.
That's what I
that.
thought. Okay. I couldn't remember if that was his reasoning. And he was evidently well thought of, I think. I mentioned to you that I watched the sequel, and I had fully intended to watch the John Carpenter remake of this film from 1995, I think. And it was not playing on any streaming services, and I didn't want to buy it because based on John Carpenter's track record after 1985, I knew it probably would not be any good.
I have not seen it either. I may have seen it, and when I watch it, it'll trigger something, but it
the
did
reason
not imprint on me at all.
the reason I bring it up is that he invited Wolf and his wife to come to the set one day, and they did. And I thought that was cool.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So he was still alive when the remake was being done.
But yeah, so I thought his direction was really good in this, and I didn't see any issues with it at all, and don't understand how he didn't have more notoriety after it.
Maybe it was because he was in England and not America. I don't know.
Could have been, not certain. It was based on John Wyndham's book. John Wyndham also has another great science fiction book.
He does.
That he wrote, which I'm sure you know, Day of the Triffids, which was also turned into a film.
And is on our list.
And yes, it will probably be on our list. I actually like the novel much. That's a version where the novel is much better than the film, I think.
Okay.
But then again, I haven't read Midwich Cuckoo, so
Me
I can't
either.
really compare this one to it.
Yeah, that should.
But
be,
I do like
should do that.
his paranoia scenarios. So from what I remember reading in Triffids, it's very inspired by War of the Worlds, and it's that sort of invasion story, and you're following a group of survivors, especially a couple, as they try to survive all of this. This is like that, but you're right in the middle of it. What I like about this one is you're witnessing the invasion. The invasion is taking place right now. What are you going to do about it?
It's great. I was going to say, if you got to our favorite scenes, my favorite scene is probably the entire opening of this movie.
It's brilliant.
It's great. It's like, it reminds me of those old movies that I've talked about, like The Bubble or Under the Dome, where the town is pretty much isolated from everyone else. And and everyone in the town all of a sudden faints. And people don't know if they're dead or alive, and they're like trying to figure out how to rescue them. And this cop takes a bicycle and rides past a certain point into the city limits, and just falls off the bike, and you think he's dead too. But it turns out they're not dead. They were just asleep.
Right. And I know in the novel, from what I've read in research, in the novel, it's much longer. It's like 12 to 14 hours. And in this one, it's like 5.
Okay.
It's the afternoon.
Yeah.
And then
it's
they
a
all
matinee.
wake up. Yeah, it's a matinee.
But
well, scenes is a good segue.
Is less than 9 months later, which is ironic. All the women, first, less than a few months later, all the women are pregnant, and then less than 9 months later, they all give birth. But it's not been the normal pregnancy length of time. It all happens very fast, which is odd. And it may not be all in the movie. It may be just how many? 14, maybe something.
There's a difference in the movie.
I thought there was.
There are 12 children.
Okay.
In the novel, there are 60.
Okay. Because it's a small village and most of the women are pregnant unless they are like barren or whatever the word is, where they can't have children.
Yeah, and one of my favorite scenes is the whole montage she does with all the different types of pregnancies. So you have the young girl who's with the doctor, and the doctor is obviously, without saying it, accusing her, and you know that she's a virgin and she's never done this. And then you've got the husband who's upset with his wife
Because they haven't had sex.
because they haven't had sex,
Right.
and yet she's
And
pregnant.
she's
And then you
pregnant.
have the family where he just returned from the war and he's been gone for
So
for all
whose
this
baby is it?
time.
Yeah,
So
I love
who's
that too.
and I love the way they have them, and then they show like all the guys at the pub drinking because it's all like your wife too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a very mature movie in that
Yes.
regard, because when you look at well, first of all, it's black and white, even though it's 1960.
60.
Yeah, it's black and white, and it has the feel of an older, like Universal movie.
Very.
So it's like this subject matter seems out of place. It's like I've never seen something like them referring to infidelity and teenage pregnancy. Yeah, it's very unique.
It's very adult, and they handle it well. We get some closure on some of those, to the point that one of the women commits suicide, which is from
Right.
the novel. Another one of the men commits suicide because he can't take it. So there's a mature theme all the way through it, which
Right.
I think is good. Yeah, there's lots. I want to say that I should save that and talk about that when we critique it. I love the appearance of the children. I like the way both major scenes the three major scenes with the kids work. I like when they're little kids and they want the chocolate. I like that scene, the way it's done and the way it's shown and the way they communicate. And I like the scene when we finally see them as, elementary school kids for the first time, and they're all walking together, and the kid throws the ball with the one, and the way they all turn, and you suddenly go, holy, and they haven't done the eyes yet. They've done the little eyes in the baby scene, but they haven't done the eyes yet. And you're like going, oh my God, just don't piss them off. Don't piss them off.
Right.
And then of course the scene where they make the guy take his own life is great, because we see not only them affecting something, but we see how they can
Manipulate.
pause other people.
Mm.
They can make you not even move or react. So,
It's very unnerving.
oh gosh, I think their powers are really unique and
Yeah.
different.
And I remember we were doing something last year, and you had happened to catch it recently.
Yeah.
And we're like, I forgot how good this movie was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really good compared to the sequel. I would not recommend the sequel at all.
I would not either. And nor, obviously, even without seeing it, I wouldn't recommend the Carpenter remake. But
No, no.
but I also like the ramp up at the end toward the climax with them. How are we going to stop them? In Alaska, the whole village killed themselves. And then the big crux is in Russia, they nuked the village, because this isn't for those of you who haven't seen it, while you're listening to us drone on, go watch it and come back. This isn't an isolated event. A la War of the Worlds or those other invasion movies, Independence Day, all of that. This has happened all over the world. It's just
Mhm.
different villages have reacted different ways. And in Russia, they let them reach this form of maturity, but then when they start seeing the signs, they nuked the village. And that's what they're talking about possibly doing in England here in Midwich.
That's very Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a key, because they do nuke that town when they find out it has zombies.
Mm-hmm. That's a good key.
Yeah.
But the way, once he finds that out, then he's struggling with how do we do it and not be that inhumane sort of thing. But then once he sees it happen, or sees their true power, he says, I've got to do something. And I like the fact that he's in these kind of movies, especially in 60, So coming from the 50s, we see usually two types of scientists. We see the scientist who says, no, 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 you can't kill the creature. They need to be studied.
Like in the monolith monsters that we
Yeah,
just covered. Yes.
yeah, yeah. Or we see the courageous scientist who's trying to find a solution to the problem.
Which is Andromeda's strain.
Right. And he falls, I think, much more into the secondary category, even sacrificing himself. Kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if I had to pick another scene, I would choose the very last scene because it is so abrupt. I was like, it's over? Damn. This movie
Yeah.
stops. I mean, it just ends.
Although I will ask, what do you think he meant with all the floating eyes? What does that mean?
That they're around us everywhere, maybe.
Could be.
Like an
couldn't-
ominous message to the people in the audience. Beware who's around you.
I really
Of
am
course, you would
was
recognize them. They all look alike.
I really was confused by it and didn't know if he's saying, "Oh, that's their release and they're all going away," or does that mean they're all invading somehow? They didn't die, so we're setting up a sequel, maybe, or whatever.
They're alien ghosts, alien
Or
spirits.
alien spirits are roaming the
They've been
hills of
obliterated and they're going to alien heaven via their eyes, their floating eyes.
Yes, they're everywhere. Yes.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's meant to be left up to interpretation. But if I had to give a metaphor for it, it would be, beware what's near you because they're everywhere. Very much like Watch the Skies, this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that
Yeah.
kind of homage to that. Yeah. I can see
Yeah, that would even be a key. I keep spouting out keys that I didn't even have written down. That's funny.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So it's very influential. Yeah, we can move on to cast. I have that. I had a little
George
note.
Sanders is great. No,
George Sanders is great. Before we get to that, I wanted to mention something else. I'm going to read this verbatim. Originally begun in 1957 as an American picture, writer Sterling Silliphant said he wrote it with Ronald Colman in mind. At the time, producer Milo Frank was saying he wanted Glenn Ford. So Ronald Colman was the original concept from the writer, but producers wanted Glenn Ford to star. MGM had this scheduled for a U.S. filming in the spring of 1958 and 59, but postponed it both times. Coleman was gravely ill, housebound, and dying. After the script was completed, in an odd twist, his replacement, George Sanders, had recently married Benita Hume, Coleman's widow.
Wow.
That's strange. Ford was one of MGM's few contracted big-name stars at the time, but he was too high in demand. That's why he's not in it, and they ended up going with George Sanders.
Okay.
Someone else tapped to star, and I'm not sure who he would have played, is Russ Tamblyn. But this is the same year West Side Story came out. So he would have been too old to be a kid and too young to be the father, I think.
He might have been able to play the brother or yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Russ Tamblyn would have been a bad choice if it was for the lead because I like him, but I just think he's too young. So we have George Sanders, who ended up in the movie. I have mucho respect for him after movies I've been watching, like Lured with Lucille Ball and Boris Karloff that I mentioned in A Coming to Get You, in a Genre Week several episodes back. But he was in All About Eve with Bette Davis, another mega Oscar-winning movie. He was in Rebecca, an Alfred Hitchcock movie. He was in The Picture of Dorian Gray, which we covered last season. And he's the voice of Shere Khan in The Jungle Book.
Oh, yes.
I mean, this guy is great. I mentioned, and I will read this again since I read it when we did Portrait of Dorian Gray, there's a very unique attribute with George Sanders. He committed suicide in 1972 with pills. He told his friend David Niven that he intended to do it when he got older, and he left a note that said, "Dear world, I am leaving because I am bored. I have lived long enough, and I'm leaving you with your worries in this sweet cesspool. Good luck." He was 65 years old. So he didn't want to get any older, I guess.
More power to him. I don't see
That's
anything
all I
wrong
have
with
on
that.
George. Barbara Shelley, on the other hand, played an Anthea Zellaby. That's a weird name, Anthea.
And Thea, yeah.
Anthea. You mentioned her being an, did you say ingenue or something? You said something about her being a young starlet or something. And I was like, I don't really remember her that well. I know she was in the Quatermass and the
Mm-hmm.
Pit movie that we
Yeah.
did, which is a Hammer movie.
I think that's
And
the
then,
last time we saw her, right?
I mean, that's what I know her from. So I don't really think of her as a star. She was in Prince of Darkness, the Dracula Hammer movie, and she was in The Avengers. She was in The Gorgon, which is another Hammer movie. I like her. I just don't see her as a really big star.
She wasn't. She went on to do a lot of television, but
Okay,
mostly BBC television.
I'm sure.
She did a couple of Doctor Who's, I think, or whatever.
It
She,
makes sense.
in her credits, I have noted in my notes that she was in 1968, they did a TV series for Day of the Triffids, and she was in that.
Oh, very cool.
So that's tied back to Wyndham. But
Yeah, it is. Well, and I come across this a lot. I was doing some research before we started, and when we cover movies or mention movies from overseas, whether it be a foreign language country like Germany or Spain, or whether it be English speaking country like Canada or England, a lot of the times those actors don't cross over to the States. So we don't know much about them because they only do movies in their respective countries.
true.
And I think Barbara Shelley falls in that category. George Sanders didn't, however. He would come over and do American movies. Martin Stevens plays David Zellaby. He is the lead child that you see in those pictures there. We have seen David Zellaby recently in movies. We covered The Innocents, which is based on Turn of the Screw a few seasons back.
Mhm.
Wonderful movie with Deborah Kerr. He was the child in it as well. And he's a mature child in that as well. He's a very good actor. However, he didn't pursue it as an adult. He only did 18 movies total. And his last was The Witches, which is also known as The Devil's Own, which is a movie I talked about in the top 5 not too long ago. Stars Joan Fontaine. He became an architect. He
Oh,
left,
really?
yeah, he
Didn't
left
know
the
that.
movie business. I think he may have moved to Canada. I don't know if he did or not, but he definitely became an architect.
Okay.
And he shot this film only 3 weeks after losing his father,
Oh,
which I would think would help him play into it some,
okay.
being an odd little alien child. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. The only other things I have are just names. Michael Gwynn played Alan Bernard. Lawrence Naismith played Dr. Willers. Richard Warner played Harrington, and I wondered, is he related to David Warner? But I didn't know. And then Clive Powell is the only actor who appears in this film and the sequel, Children of the Damned. In both films, he portrays the leader of the alien children, but only briefly in this one, so you don't see him very long.
The leader of the children? He's not David? I
No,
thought David was
apparently
the
there was
leader.
another one, I guess. I didn't catch that, but that's what my trivia notes say. So in casting,
I mean, you've got to assume in the way this movie is that David is the lead.
I would think so too.
Yeah.
But he is that. But the kid that plays David Martin is not in the sequel. The sequel is you would call it agendized.
Oh, really?
Even though it came out just a few years later, each child is from a different country. There's like an Asian boy, an Indian girl, English boy. They're all from different nationalities.
Well, you can be diverse. Diverse is
Right.
okay.
Right.
I don't mind that.
I'm
I
just
mean,
teasing you because you've been talking about political correctness for a while in films. But
oh, yeah.
yes, this one, it's just not as good. I mean, basically, they're like trying to hold a woman hostage in a church, and most of it's all filmed in that church. And I'm like, this is kind of boring.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one thing I will say about it that blew me away, and we are talking about the sequel, folks, not Village of the Damned. We're talking about Children of the Damned.
Mhm.
There is an obvious gay couple in it, and it blew my mind. It's the guy from the movie Repulsion, because I recognized him, and another guy, and they're both scientists, and they're like the head scientist doing this and that, and then they're at home together, and they're like domestic, and they cook meals for each other. I was like, this is a gay couple. I was shocked. I was totally shocked.
They were just two bachelors who were cohabitating.
Well, what's funny is they're not only a gay couple, unsaid, obviously, in the 1960s, but they are highly credited scientists that happen to be in a relationship.
Well, that's why they have to keep it secret that they're a gay couple. I mean, come on.
I don't know. Anyway, so for any of you that do want to watch the sequel to Village of the Damned, Children of the Damned has a covert gay couple in it that are the leads. As far as awards, this was nominated for a dramatic presentation for a Hugo Award. It lost to The Twilight Zone, which was hot that year. And it is not on the 1001 movies you must see before you die list. And I probably agree with that. I don't know that it's that great.
Well, it would definitely be in my runner-up category for if I needed a hole in the 1001, because I think it's an adequate, it's a good science fiction film. It's a good invasion film. It's a different style.
If it was 1001 science fiction films, it would be on the list.
Oh, definitely. It'd be in the top
sure.
300 of the best science fiction films.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It definitely has that paranoia feel to it, has great acting, and like we've said, good direction all the way through.
Great special effects, too.
Mm-hmm. A new effect they were experimenting with. They basically did a negative of the child's pupils and then put them back in the same image, which I thought was cool. And it works really well.
Yeah.
It is very effective when their eyes turn. And they didn't have
I think I used that image as one of our earliest images on our website. I'm pretty sure I did.
What's unnerving? I mean, we even know, even we've talked off camera and stuff about Mary Poppins, Chitty Chitty Bang. British children can be annoying and terrifying and weird. But
you said that about him in The Innocents. You said the exact same thing.
But then giving them glowing eyes should be a precursor to stay away from them.
I think that we need to add to your list that David is not only scared of giant spiders and clowns and closed shower curtains, he also is terrified of British children.
I'm not terrified of them. They're just annoying. They're very... excuse me, but have you not read the dictionary lately? And don't you know what you're supposed to be doing? They're very annoying, I think.
May I have some more?
Please, sir, have some more. But no, like David in that last scene, when he's talking to him, why can I not read your mind? What are you thinking? Why are you thinking of a brick wall? And before that, he had done the whole thing about, it's time for us to go now. Da-da-da-da-da. You know, you're thinking about the other village and what they did to those children. How would he even know that? He's an alien. So, yeah. It's not scary. It's just unnerving a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't scare me that much. But no.
Yeah, not you. No, if they were eating the flesh of the town, you might have some unnerving there.
And there were like camps and clans of awful humans that are out to get you. Yeah, that would be more scary.
Yes. There were some moments in it when I was going, it just doesn't really make sense or work for me. Well, first of all, there's a lot of time shifts in this movie. And I think he could have helped us with just a little bitty chyron or something that said 9 months later.
Yeah, but it's nowhere near as jarring as 30 Days a Night, which we did at the end of last season.
Agreed.
Those were horrible. But
that's like, how is it 1 day, 1 week, 3 weeks?
Exactly. This, I mean, I got that time was passing. I mean, they set it up early on. They have the hours that everyone's out. They have the months before the women have the babies. Then they have the children babies. Then they have the children side. So you get a sense of passage of time, I think.
Yeah, and they usually comment on it. It's been 4 months since this, da-da-da.
It says so right here.
right here on the paper.
Did you have trivia maybe before we roll into keys? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to break
well,
your
some
train
of
of
it's
thought.
trivia and some of it's just opinions or thoughts or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. I'm all for it.
I
The
think this was
opinions.
the first time I had heard the word exogenesis.
I don't know that I had ever heard it.
And when he said it to David, I was going, wow, okay, yeah. So that was cool because I think I saw this movie before I read the novel. I don't think I read the novel before I saw this movie. I might have, but I don't remember it imprinting
I
or
don't
whatever.
read a lot of sci-fi. You know that. And I didn't read I haven't read any Wyndham novels, but I do try to read classic sci-fi. So I
Mhm.
think I've read Finney. I have read Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I don't think I've read any Wyndham though. I'm sure I haven't.
I think you would enjoy it.
Would too.
Probably this more than Triffids because there's more psychology in this one. Triffids is a straight
Plants.
monster movie. It's a
Yeah.
monster movie. Other trivia, I'm trying to check my notes real quick. Going back and forth. They changed the name.
I
Yes,
have a
this
very
is
funny trivia. Well, I don't know that it's funny for them. It's funny to me.
Yeah.
For the close-ups, the child actors had their heads clamped
Yeah.
to ensure that they were completely still. So underneath those wigs, there was some kind of brace, I think, on their head, so they
Yes.
couldn't move it.
Yes.
I was like, man, that has got to go against some kind of child labor law now. It does.
Maybe. The scene I mentioned that was one of my favorites, which was when the first indication of something is going to be wrong with the kids is when Anathea burns her own hand because the milk she gave David was too hot, so he made her do it.
Yeah, he punishes her.
He's pissed off that she gave him. And then that spurs the Sanders character to do the whole chocolate puzzle, which he does with David first, and then he takes it to a visitor who has twins, a neighbor who has twins. That scene is also creepy and scary, but it's played by the same child actress. She played both parts, the boy and the girl.
I did see that in trivia, but I did not look for it when I was watching the movie.
Yeah. And then having them all. But I do think it's weird because there's another time. Oh, no. I had it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. When they're hit with the ball and they all turn around and the one blonde starts to do something and David goes, don't so-and-so, don't Martha or whatever. I was going to, her eyes didn't glow. Her eyes, oh, they're not supposed to. She didn't do anything. Okay, never mind. What else?
Wolf knows what he's doing.
Oh, yeah.
The only other trivia thing I've already mentioned, Ian Hendry is the actor, and Alan Badel play two flatmates in the sequel, Children of the Damned, at a time when homosexuality was illegal in the United Kingdom. So there could be no inference that they were anything other than platonic friends. So I'm not the only one that got onto this. There's other people out there.
They were just two educated bachelors living together.
That's so funny. Yeah, I was like, this is hilarious. Anyway.
I do have in my comments, my watch notes of, okay, so we won't show you the burned body that David made, that all the kids made happen because they made that guy set himself on fire.
Right.
And they're all there witnessing it, and it's pretty grim.
Yeah.
We won't even show a cutaway of a charred coat or anything. But we do want to show a really, really, really bad miniature cabin at the very end and blow it up with fake flame and everything. I was going, ooh, I think we could have adjusted those two perspectives a little bit.
Yeah.
It's the only thing wrong with that last ending is that that is obviously a really bad
Well, I was
ending.
going to say there's something about the ending of this movie that pissed me off, and it's probably that, but it's also that it is very abrupt. It's the eyes floating out, and that's it. It's over.
We don't even get like a reaction shot of her being hugged by the best friend and blah, blah, blah.
Or that her husband sacrificed himself. Yes.
Yeah. Some kind of little denouement would have been good.
Yeah. Or even a teaser that it's not over. Yeah. I was expecting a little bit more.
Yeah. Because it is and we're done.
Yeah. Bam.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, it ends with an explosion.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. No cutaways, no nothing. I did like the scene in the car when they're driving away. And she says, why did he say that? Why did he say take care of her?
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's her
Foreshadowing.
clue to I've got to get back and see what,
Yeah.
and witness the bad cheap miniature blow up. So
Yeah.
yeah. Cool. Keys? You already
Keys.
said a bunch.
I
I
have,
mean,
and I've been writing them down as we go because others have popped into my head.
okay.
We mentioned obviously the book, and we mentioned the sequel, and we mentioned the Carpenter remake.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I mentioned, those movies where it's like a small town under a dome, like The Bubble
Oh
or
yeah. Under the
Under
Dome.
the Dome,
Definitely.
the Stephen King story. But another Stephen King story that this reminds me of is Salem's Lot, because we're all in everybody's business, like that teenage pregnancy and the guy thinking his wife's cheating on him. It's very soap opera, very much like Salem's Lot, the novel.
Yes.
So that's another one I had.
I had that one definitely. I had Salem's
Okay.
Lot. It feels like Salem's Lot.
Mm-hmm. And they look like little demon vampire children too, when you think about it,
Mm-hmm.
especially with them eyes.
Well, and I have, what was the other one? Under the Dome. I have Andromeda Strain
Okay.
because of the whole opening with the town being isolated and we have to
Mm-hmm.
send in somebody to check on it, that sort of thing. That reminded me of that. I have Rosemary's Baby just because we're afraid of our baby. I don't know if that's a good enough key,
No,
but
it is, because it is, the child is the antagonist. The children
yeah,
are the antagonists for sure. Now, we don't really get that to the very end of Rosemary's Baby, though,
I
but
just
it's
thought
still
of
the same
that.
premise.
Yeah, but I didn't have like Exorcist. That has a scary kid. Omen has a scary kid. I mean, you could do an entire subcategory of scary kids. We
You,
even did, but one I did have that we did 2 years ago, Cronenberg, The
the
Brood.
Brood, that's a good one. That's more appropriate, I would say, than like The Omen or The Exorcist.
Yeah, yeah,
Rosemary's
yeah, yeah.
Baby ties it in a little bit more because there's a weird pregnancy.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
Well, which goes to my other one, which is Children of the Corn, another Stephen King.
yeah, a lot of Stephen King. That's
But
funny.
again, it's especially Children of the Corn because you get all of those different shots of a group of kids who are obviously menacing and obviously in control.
Yeah, and King watched this movie when he was a teenager.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Big
He
time.
had to.
Yeah. I mentioned Return of the Living Dead because it ends literally with an explosion at the end too. But another one that came to mind when we were talking about it is the kids making people do stuff. It's that Twilight Zone episode, It's a Good Life,
Oh
where that
yeah.
little kid, I can't think of the original as much as I do the remake in the film Twilight Zone, the movie, where he's
Mhm.
like, I'm sending you to Cartoon Land. And he sends that guy into a television set, and he's all of a sudden part of a cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's Billy Mummy from Lost in Space played it in the series,
In the original.
in the
Yeah.
original Twilight Zone series. Yeah, exactly.
Which is based on a short story.
It is. It's based on a sci-fi short story, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I just can't remember the author right now.
But I mean, it's not a group of kids, I don't think, but it's one kid that can basically manipulate people like they do in this movie.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I've got The Stranger Within, which is a Richard Matheson story, I believe. I'm pretty
Really?
sure he wrote it.
It
He
wouldn't
wrote
surprise me looking at the date that it came out, 1974. It was a
and
TV
that
movie.
was Barbara Eden. I always remember that because it was sort of Rosemary's Baby-ish, but it was very alien influenced. I mean, this was obviously an alien that had impregnated her and she was going to have an alien baby. So that to me is a key from this. By the same token, you could say X-Files. We're doing X-Files on Patreon.
This does feel like an X-Files episode when you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to go to Midwich. We've got some things going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scully, they're saying something about every woman in the town got pregnant at the same time.
Oh, like me? I was abducted, and now
Like
I'm
me, I was
pregnant.
abducted,
Yeah.
and every woman says they were abducted too. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. It's very X-Files. Very.
So I had
I-
a lot of X-Files in it.
Yeah, I don't have any other keys, but did we mention the book? I think we did mention it. We mentioned it
Yeah.
earlier anyway, that it was obviously based on the Midwich cuckoos, which, as you said, refers to birds depositing their eggs in the nest of others. What do you know about him?
About who? Wyndham?
Wyndham, yeah.
Nothing much.
Just a British sci-fi writer?
British sci-fi writer. He did a lot of short stories too, though, in addition to novels, so he was good. I have two last ones. One I got directly from IMDb that said Children of Spider County. It was an episode of Outer Limits. I do not remember that episode at all, but I'll have to look it up now because I should revisit Outer Limits anyway.
Spider County?
Yeah. Spider
That's a weird
Country.
name.
Sorry, Spider
Country. Okay.
Children of Spider Country. And that also showed up on a Google I did of creepy children. So, along with like other ones that don't fall into these keys or whatever, but like
The Sixth Sense.
Well, yeah, Sixth Sense, Bad Seed.
The Bad Seed, she's not creepy. She is a psychopath.
She's a demon.
And she is on our list because the more I watch that movie, the more I like it.
Damien and Omen and all of that. But my last key, which I got while we were talking about it, because I was talking about the effect they did of taking the kids' actual pupils and doing essentially a reverse image of them and bringing them back on them. Wish they had done that for poor Gary Seven in Star Trek, so he wouldn't have had to wear those contact lenses.
Those sclerotic contact lenses that cover your entire eye. I hate those things. When I see them, they just gross me out.
Yeah,
it's like how do you put one of those in?
Well, I remember Ellen Sandwich when we were doing Evil Dead talked about. I mean, she could only wear them for like 10 minutes.
I don't see how they all, I think, wore them at one point in that movie, didn't they? Yeah. Maybe except for Bruce, maybe.
Ellen was just more vocal than the other ones.
I'm sure, because if you see them, they look like half of an eggshell. I mean, they're like big, and you have to put that entire thing in your eye.
And for her, it was like, make up your hands with all this stuff, make up your whole face with all this makeup, and put all this on you, put you in a hole in the ground. Now put the eyeballs in and bang on the door.
Yeah.
So but
special
I'm
effects
so
come
glad
a long way.
I'm so glad we picked this one. I had a lot of fun with this one.
I did too. I told you I always struggle picking horror sci-fi movies for Halloween.
Yeah.
So I was trying to find some creepy ones, and this one in Pitch Black won the lottery.
Yeah.
So, and then next week we've got a big granddaddy horror one that we will.
Boy, do we! We have one of the best movies ever made. Actually.
Yeah, and the most appropriate.
Yes.
And I will say no more.
No, we won't. But we want to thank you guys. So
yeah, well, thank you guys for joining us for Village of the Damned. And if you like what you heard today, please give us a rating or a comment down below. If you're watching on YouTube, you can always subscribe to our channel. We do have little short things that we do as well, like preview coming attraction type shows, top fives. If you really, really like what you're seeing here, we do have a Patreon channel where we have a couple of extra shows that are subscription based. One is on the X-Files episode by episode. One is on Star Trek the original series episode by episode, as well as lesser tiers that include all kinds of bonus episodes, including behind the scenes stuff and just additional meanderings. David and I talk about our past and what we did as youngins. And so there's all kinds of interesting stuff over on Patreon if you want to go over there and check it out. Patreon/Johnny Has the Keys. And until next time, when I will be seeing you very, very close to the October 31st date, David.
To the best holiday of the year.
I'll see you then.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.